During World War I, General John J. Pershing of the United States demanded a request for the commonly known Hello Girls. On the Western Front, French male switchboard operators could not transfer any calls from English generals. It became a logistical nightmare for Pershing as his generals could not send out orders over the various fronts. So, Pershing sent out a request for female operators, and hundreds of women applied to be in the United States Signal Corps. The requirements being that they were fluent in both French and English and could handle the pressures of the war. The Signal Corps acted as switchboard soldiers who transferred calls and provided information to units all over the world. From the moment they arrived in France, they worked all day and night to keep their country safe. They aided the country in an honorable victory. In return, they received no veteran status or honorable discharges. 233 Hello Girls were overlooked for the role they played in the war. The reason being that they were women, not men. Each Hello Girl took a leap of faith out of the restraints of domestic values in society and expanded the expectations of women's capabilities. Almost 60 years after the war ended, the GI Bill Improvement Act of 1977 was signed by President Jimmy Carter, which allowed the Hello Girls veteran status and benefits. But only 18 Hello Girls were still alive to receive credit for their wartime efforts. Although it took many years to acknowledge their work, the Hello Girls of World War I advanced society's views of women's roles by serving as an integral corps that shifted President Wilson Woodrow's opinion on women's rights, influenced the creation of the GI Bill, and marked as a shift in women's responsibilities in male-dominated fields.
At the beginning of their involvement in the war, the Hello Girls were believed to be unqualified and a foolish idea. However, after demonstrating their intelligence and the importance of their work, many people's opinions shifted, including President Woodrow Wilson. While at first some, mainly male soldiers, felt unsure about the women's jobs, eventually their talent demonstrated that the missions were more important than gender norms. Smithsonian writer Lorraine Bossinol reports that women face sexism from men who question their place at the switchboards and in the military. However, after seeing their agility on the switchboards, the men were grateful and very willing to let them do their jobs, since their jobs were so critical to transmitting important battle plans. As Boysenall put it, they were not only constantly fielding simultaneous calls, they were translating too. It was an extremely high-paced operation that involved a variety of tasks. The women were really critical. Eventually, this created enormous camaraderie and mutual respect. Because the Hello Girls proved to be so crucial to the war efforts, American citizens came together to put aside personal beliefs and societal norms. Americans prioritized the success of their country, eventually altering people's opinions. The Hello Girls' dedication, vigor, and sacrifice were enough to change people's belief about not just them, but also women in general. While they were once thought of as embarrassing and silly, they became known for their bravery and talent instead. The Hello Girls' actions proved that women's capabilities lay beyond the home. Most importantly, the Hello Girls' actions proved to have an impact on important figures such as President Woodrow Wilson, who had a key role in passing the 19th Amendment to give women the right to vote. During the election, one of the biggest aspects of his campaign had been his strong opposition to giving women the right to vote. Wilson believed the woman's place within the home and that the decision of women's rights to vote should be left to the states. However, in an address to Congress on September 30th, 1918, Wilson famously stated, "We have made partners of the women in this war. Shall we admit them only to a partnership of suffering and sacrifice and toil, and not to a partnership of privilege and rights? This war could not have been fought if it had not been for the services of the women, services rendered in every sphere wherever men have worked and upon the very skirts and edges of the battle itself." These women, who were doubted, judged, and laughed at in the beginning, made the most of their opportunities and had a lasting impact on those around them. The Hello Girls and countless other female service members demonstrated their patriotism and dedication to the country while simultaneously not having the same rights as their fellow countrymen. However, 2 years after the end of World War I, the women's tremendous nationalism was recognized with the passing of the 19th Amendment, granting them the right to vote. However, the fight for equality was not over yet.
Although it was not until many years after the end of the war when the Hello Girls were recognized for their actions, the women played a crucial role in enacting the GI Bill, which is still actively helping veterans of all genders today. When World War I came to a close, America was filled with nationalism and a pride for one's country. In New York, 20,000 men of the New York National Guard's 27th Division were greeted by a parade with upwards of 2 million people attending. But for the Hello Girls, after their return home, the Army said that they had served as employees of the military, not as actual soldiers, and denied them veteran bonuses, hospitalization for disabilities, or even flags on their coffins. The difference between the welcoming of female soldiers home and male soldiers home provides insight into society's opinion on women in war. According to America's response, the only people who deserved credit for their work abroad were the men. The Hello Girls were trusted and gifted the responsibility to be a part of the Signal Corps, but they still lacked the qualification for benefits because of their gender. It is the responsibility of the nation to commend all genders and nationalities for protecting them. At the end of the day, the Hello Girls served as an equal part as men on the front lines. By swearing an oath into the Army, they put both their lives on the line. It was not until 1977, 59 years after the end of World War I, that the Hello Girls were officially gained recognition for their service. This prevented easy access to simple things like healthcare and pay, which influenced women to take a stand and fight for more equality and equal representation. Female suffrage protests influenced President Jimmy Carter when he enacted the GI Bill Improvement Act of 1977 that granted the Hello Girls veteran status, benefits, and some received the World War I Victory Medal. Leaders like Grace Derby Banker, the head of the Signal Corps, finally received recognition for her efforts. She led 32 women to new fronts for communication. A common misconception is that the Hello Girls sat comfortably in the protection of fortified bases whilst the men were in the midst of battle. But Grace Banker took her responsibilities seriously as she led women to new posts when certain places became unstable for communication. Within the GI Bill, the Improvement Act increased 6.6% of the amount of monthly veterans assistance and provided vocational rehabilitation, education, flight training, survivor independence education, and correspondence and apprenticeship training courses. Simple benefits like health care exhibit respect for people who sacrificed their life and health abroad to save the health of citizens back home. Even today, the GI Bill improves veterans' rights and active military members who are now able to receive credit and benefits owed to them for their sacrifices, regardless of gender. Overall, the GI Bill achieved the goal that all people of all gender, races, and backgrounds have the opportunity to be thanked for their service for the rest of their lives.
Finally, the Hello Girls' involvement in World War I marked a shift in women's roles, facilitating a reimagination of women's part in both the military and at home. Historically, women's roles in war, such as the American Revolutionary War, included nurses, laundresses, and cooks. In the Civil War, women cared for the wounds of soldiers on the front lines and organized official nursing units. Additionally, women stayed home and took care of properties and businesses while the men were off fighting. The Hello Girls were the first women to be officially involved in the war efforts on the front lines, hired by the United States Army. This demonstrated a revolutionary shift for women entering non-traditional workspaces. However, the U.S. government still treated them and considered them citizen volunteers rather than actual service members. Furthermore, the first U.S. telephone operators were men who were poorly trained and tended to hang up when stressed soldiers yelled at them over the phone. The Hello Girls, working in jobs previously intended for men, proved to be more valuable and effective than the men. The Hello Girls set a precedent for switchboard operators to be a career option for women in World War II and during peacetime, and a way for women to demonstrate their willingness to sacrifice for their country. Finally, in the advertising sent out by the War Department in order to recruit these women, it was clear that what the military initially intended for them to do was just as important as the men fighting on the front lines. Unfortunately, the government's actions at the end of the war demonstrated a shift in this belief. The article stated the women would be full-fledged soldiers under the Articles of War and would do as much to help win the war as the men in khaki who go over the top. The Hello Girls' work abroad demonstrated a new role for women during wartime. Rather than staying home or tending to wounded soldiers, women could now risk their lives and devote themselves to their country, differently, in a way equal to their male counterparts. For example, in a letter home to a friend, Hello Girl Sarah Factu detailed 3 air raids that happened within 1 week. She explained how everyone must take shelter in the cellar since this was the only place to protect them from falling buildings. This marked a shift in understanding women have the capacity and talent to take on tasks in the workplace that are physically and mentally challenging. Overall, the Hello Girls paved the way for future women, not only in the military but also in the workplace everywhere. They showed the world their strength, capability, and intelligence, and made a great sacrifice to spark change for women's access to careers.
The fight for women's equality still stands in aspects of life, but the Hello Girls were the push needed to get the basic right to vote and respect in mainly male-dominated fields. Also, they blazed the trail for the Women's Army Corps during World War II. But women still face opposition and are constantly having their rights attacked. For example, recently President Donald Trump appointed Pete Hegseth as his Secretary of Defense. Hegseth has publicly admitted that he doesn't believe women should be in combat roles, since traditionally that role has been served by the men.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
Women have faced decades of discrimination, whether it is over domestic responsibilities or their right to even enter the male workplace. The key traits of perseverance and resilience are evident in all women. The Hello Girls of World War I took the first leap for women, and more is still to come.